again, everyone. It is yours truly, the Whiskey Coach, for review number 97. Thanks for joining me. Today's review, Old Elk blended straight bourbon whiskey. We're going to get to that, but blended is scary sometimes. I know for you guys, you're thinking maybe they added flavor or colorings. They didn't. Please be confident. This was the master distiller of this Old Elk distillery out in Colorado is none other than Greg Metz, the former MGP master distiller. Ironically, that's where a lot of this whiskey was sourced. The reason, I'll just get right to it. The reason they have to call this one a blended straight whiskey is because they got it from 2 different states. That's that. Now, here's what's interesting. I do a little bit of reading before these reviews, not only of the bottle, but online to make sure that the stats that I think are correct. And at the end, I'm not going to read you the whole little description on the bottle, but at the end of the bottle, it says, Old Elk blended straight bourbon whiskey is aged a minimum of 4 years. But I heard Greg Metz himself on a podcast or something, and I double-checked it. I did see this quote. He himself said that it was comprised of a blend of whiskeys, blend of bourbons, from 2.8 years to 8.2 years. So I don't know if they just got to use an average in this case. I don't know. But anyways, it is what it is. Enough of that business. We'll get kind of right into the core of what we're going to consume here tonight. Mash bill standpoint, really interesting. They squeak just over the 51% qualification at the corn number. The malted barley, guys, usually is like 4 to 6%. It's kind of used as like a just an agitator from a chemistry standpoint. That's why malted barley is kind of used at the low percentages it is. In this case, we're talking 34% malted barley and then 15% rye. So 51, 34, and 15. So I probably have, and I didn't know it, but I can't remember a bourbon coming in at that high of a malted barley percentage. So that'll be interesting. So I think we've beat the stats to death. Hopefully you're not sleeping on me yet, but let's talk a little about this presentation. I really, really, really like it. Nice kind of square bottle with Greg's autograph there on it. 1868 to 2008. Apparently Old Elk is a brand that was around at some point before. I didn't know that, to be honest with you. I love, 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 love this topper. It's like a piece of wood. You see what I'm saying? It looks like a tree stump or something with elk. I really, really like that. That's sharp. And it's kind of got a little bit of like gold and purple down there on the elk. I just think it's a really sharp presentation. Then the black neck kind of is reminiscent of like a 1792 foolproof or something like that. So I think they did a hell of a job with presentation. This one is in the $45 to $50 range, so not cheap, which is oftentimes my knock on these craft distillers is you're paying a little bit more than you probably should because they're trying to turn a profit. I get that, but probably a little expensive, I guess. But I haven't tasted it yet. It could be the greatest liquid on the face of the earth. An important thing I didn't cover, this one is 88 proof. So a little light. So 44% ABV. No further ado, let's dive in. Ooh, great cork pop. And the bottom looks nice as well. So at 88%, and a ton of malted barley, my guess it's going to be a little doughy, a little bready, a little sweeter than typical, but that's just a guess. Yeah, the color is very par for the course, very traditional, golden, amber, whatever you want to call it. I think amber is probably more apropos. Very sweet. Smelling, haven't tasted it yet. Yeah, very sweet. Yeah, it is a little bit of almost like a yeastiness in there. That could be my imagination, but I feel like I'm getting that. I try to be straightforward with you guys, right? We're all impressionable. We read things. Um, we read about what something is made out of, and you start to kind of draw conclusions whether you're aware of that or not. Like baked apple, yeah, like a warm apple pie a little bit, which is nice. You know what? I'm excited. Let's taste this. Let's jump right in. Huh? That's different. Hmm. That's that is that's very different. Um, First impression is it drinks a little hotter than 88 proof, a little more tingling than you typically get at this level. I would imagine this would just sort of kind of go right down. I don't. It's not hot on the finish, but it's hot on the front, right? So like the very front of my tongue is almost numb. Um, that maybe that's a malted barley thing. Maybe that number of malted barley, that percentage of malted barley, affects the front of the tongue like that. I'm not sure, but that's a little bit unique. I'm getting dark cherry for sure. Almost like cherry candies a little bit. Lots of fruit here. Apricot. Um, Maybe a little bit of the flavors you'd get with like a something higher in rye than this is. But outside of the cherry and the little bit of the doughy mouthfeel, nothing's really kind of popping off the page for me here. Not unpleasant. So far, 2 sips in, I'm a little meh on this one. It's just sort of I'm having a hard time. You know, I don't know if this is making much an impression on me. I guess is what I'm saying. So, meaning, like if you were to come over here, and it's been 4 or 5, 6, 7 weeks from now, and you're like, hey, how's that old elk? I'd be like, I thought it was okay. Maybe like there'll be nothing that sort of triggers my mind in terms of a memory on this one, and I feel like that may be the case. Just kind of a knee-jerk reaction to you guys. One more time before we throw a number at this one, shall we? Something a little bit different that time. Man, I feel like this malted barley is really throwing me off. Like my brain's just not used to processing some of the flavor notes that I'm getting, so I'm having a hard time, communicating that with you guys. I think the one thing I got there is almost like rice flavor, and that's weird because rice sort of doesn't have flavor, but it sort of does. Almost how it smells. Like if you were to boil a pot of rice, you kind of get that. I don't even know how to describe it. I wouldn't know what adjective to use, but there's that kind of that neutral, kind of rice flavor. There's a little bit of that, and I don't know why. Tons of fruit, a little bit of that. I'll be curious to see them, 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the line when they're making their own distillate. But for the time being, I will give Old Elk a 6.7 on the Whiskey Coach scale. Thanks, guys, for joining me. And as always, until next time, we'll see you very soon. And glasses up.